60% of Ghana's population has regular waste collection. Only 77.5% of homes have toilet facilities. Most people are not aware that Accra's trash problem is a growing cause of many of its diseases. Now, 10,002 cholera cases were recorded and 101 lives were lost to cholera in 2011, and this has been directly linked to a lack of proper refuse dumping sites and improper disposal of waste. Ghana was ranked low in sanitation levels among all lower middle income countries in 2017 according to UNICEF, and according to UNICEF, once again, Ghana sank lower than countries recovering from wars. That's quite serious. President Akufo-Addo recently launched a national sanitation campaign dubbed Every Day is Sanitation Day and said all Ghanaians have an obligation to keep the environment clean every day. So where do we go from here as the blame game sets in, where Sanitation Minister begins to blame Zoomlion for the country's sanitation woes?
Being engulfed with filth and finding solid waste everywhere, I feel a little disappointed. And if you were to ask me, why is this state so, I'll put the blame squarely on Zoomlion.
Well, not too long ago, Pastor Mensah Otabil described Accra as not dirty, but the people, giving a signal that the problem to some extent will require attitudinal change. Who should we blame for the country's filth? How do we realize the president's dream of making Ghana the cleanest city in Africa with this kind of attitude? We have all the answers on PM Express. Stay right here. We will be back in a jiffy. Welcome back to PM Express. In the studio tonight, I'm going to have two interesting personalities who understand our sanitation situation. I'll start with Raymond Ailo, who is the aide to the sanitation minister. He's with the sanitation ministry and so understands a lot of the issues going on there. Later on, on the show, Ben Arthur, who is the former executive secretary of Coalition of NGOs on Water and Sanitation, CONIWAS, and consultant for water, sanitation and hygiene, WASH project, will also join the discussion. Good evening to you, Raymond. I'm grateful for your time.
Good evening.
And it's so refreshing to see you here.
Nice to meet you too. This is the first time we are meeting.
So how do you feel that Ghana was ranked 7th, the 7th lowest, when it comes to sanitation?
Well, let me use your platform to say good evening to your listeners and your viewers. And all Ghanaians as well. I think this must be worrying to everybody who is a Ghanaian, and have to realize that your country is among one of the dirtiest countries in the world. So I think nobody should be happy about this, and the minister is quite not happy about this, and that is why since his assumption of office, he's been working so assiduously to make sure that this narrative is changed. One of the key things that must be made clear is that if you look at the UNICEF rankings, normally they basically relied on basic sanitation. And when they say basic sanitation, it means the liquid waste. Okay. In quotes, the poo. So basically, their report was limited to how we manage our liquid waste, where our flush go. Do we have sewage systems? Majority of the people in Ghana still do open defecation. I
wouldn't be surprised because probably those are the areas that diseases like cholera and all of what have you will be linked to. If you're talking about open defecation, it's a huge problem. So I'm not surprised that they are focusing on that.
Exactly, and that is to make the point clear that the fact that we have been categorized as one of the dirtiest countries does not mean that in all aspects of our life we are dirty people. For instance, if you go to other countries within the sub-region, Ghana is not doing bad in terms of solid waste. We have our own problems, but we are working on that. In terms of the open defecation that has contributed to this ranking, the ministry, since the assumption of the minister, has been working so well to address that. And let me give you some few figures. Just in 2017, since the assumption of office, through the Gamma project, we've been able to construct over 2,290 household toilets to people living within the Gamma area, and that is within the Greater Accra metropolitan area. And just last 2 months, we launched additional 11,000 household toilets to be rolled out. And as we speak now, you have contractors in all the 11 MMAs within the Gamma area working to support people who are not able to acquire their own toilet based on the market price of the existing facility. So the project comes in to pay 50%. Now it has been increased due to the minister's lobbying skills with the bank, the World Bank, to about 70%. So the rest, the household is able to contribute. These are some of the measures the minister is taking and with his deputies and the entire ministry to change this narrative. And I can assure you that in the next 1 year, Ghana would move up.
And a school of thought will say we've heard this over and over again, because if you look at the UNICEF report, it says open defecation rates had dropped by 1% in 24 years, only 1%. And I mean, it says that if with this kind of rate of improvement, it would take Ghana about 500 years to become open defecation free. And when we are asking the Ministry of Sanitation to tell us why we are still here, Minister of Sanitation is blaming Zoomlion. Let's listen to the minister. Kofi Ada's
the situation we've been confronted with from last year 2017 to now, I blame it squarely on him because of the visibility of the waste in the system. First of all, it's not a case that we're generating any waste more than we're generating before, but it is the fact that the waste is seen more visibly in public places. And I think it is the situation that comes out of Zoomlion not being able to deploy the workers on the streets regularly to sweep, clean, gather and transport the waste away from where they're supposed to be operating. I also think strongly that this arises out of the fact that he's taking the street sweepers on board as staff members, whereas they should have been left with the assemblies. When the idea of the sanitation module was crafted under the youth employment program, it was my brainchild. He made a proposal to take the employees of the youth employment program under the sanitation module and put them under his outfit. And I said, no, that should not happen. First of all, it's a government employment program. Secondly, it's the assemblies who are directly responsible for cleaning of the waste. So we should allow the workers to be working directly with the assemblies and paid by the youth employment program so that they can be in the streets every day collecting the waste and be managed or supervised by a team. At the time, we didn't have a strong sanitation outfit nationally, so we allowed him to come in on a management contract to supervise and make sure they are doing the right thing. Along the streets, whether you give them a kilometer each or whatever length of distance of street you give to them, you supervise and make sure they're there every day on time, sweeping, collecting, and so on and so forth. I don't know how it happened that he went back and took all the staff on board, and then he's supposed to be in charge of the actual cleaning and then supervision as well, which I don't think is right. Secondly, the payment arrangement, it's something that doesn't motivate the workers to do a good job. For you to be billing and collecting 500 cedis a day and paying them 100 cedis, here it's gone up to 129, 150. And
it's still 100 cedis that I'm aware.
Well, somebody just told me yesterday that it's gone up to 120. Others said 150. I'm not so sure which is which. But I know from a visit to my constituency, somebody actually came up and told me they were still earning 100 cedis. I wonder why it would take so long for them to be paid. But when we were paying them under the youth employment program. And when they were directly under the assemblies, that wasn't the case. So I think he's the cause of the problem by allowing the workers to be under him, whereas they should be under the local authorities. I think if that's done in the first instance, we begin to see the environment being clean. We'll be sweeping, collecting the waste, conveying away from site, and there will not be any heaps of refuse anywhere.
So that was Joseph Kofi Ada, who is Minister of Sanitation. He says that Zoomlion should be blamed, and he's also talking about how Zoomlion is not taking care of the cleaners, and so they're not giving their best. But my question is, Raymond, government gives contracts to service providers. If they're not doing their job well, you take the contract from them. Why play the blame game?
Well, let me state emphatically that the minister is right in what he put across. One, if there is any problem in terms of the filth as we see day in, day out across the streets, then we have to blame someone. As much as government cannot absorb itself completely, there is somebody who has been given contracts to manage that waste, and he's been paid for that. And so for the person to come out and tell that he has the expertise to do the work, he has all the technology, he has all the people, and then he's not doing the work. Meanwhile, you've been given the contracts to do the work. Who is to be blamed?
So this goes back to how government contracts are given.
For instance.
So what kind of background checks did you do on this contractor before even giving the contract to him?
Let me state that when the minister assumed office as a Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources, those contracts were already in existence.
Was there any reason why he couldn't touch the contract if he felt the contract wasn't, the contractor wasn't working or doing what the government expected of him?
Now, if you take such a role in government, and the previous government has already entered into contract with a service provider, you can't just get up the next day and say, no, we have to stop the contract. You have to first of all review the contract.
Okay.
And if you remember, as part of the processes, the YEA has also come out that by June, they are going to issue new contracts, and they're going to open it up to many contractors.
Okay.
So it can't happen in a day, but you have to do due diligence so that you don't get up and abrogate a contract today, and the next day, government is being held for judgment day.
I know some of these contracts have caveats. And so that if there's a problem with the contract, there is you can go on the renegotiation table to get things done right.
That is why I'm saying that these contracts were signed with not less than about 217 MMDAs. So it's not just one contract you call in to have a review on. It's about 270 something. I mean contracts signed across the chain with various MMDAs. So we have recalled for all the contracts within all the assemblies, and I can assure you that some of the assemblies, they were not even able to trace their contract, and some were not even able to produce anything when we request them to submit their contract. As we speak now, contracts are still being forwarded to the ministry, and the ministry is reviewing each and every contract that the service provider has signed with any of the district assemblies. So this is done. It's been done, and we continue to do it. And I can assure you, things will change within the few days. So, but we must make the point clear that as we speak now, the service provider who government has a contract with, who is mandated to make sure that our streets are clean, is Zoomlion. And it's being paid for that.
Okay, and the minister is now blaming Zoomlion for our situation. So what is the sanitation ministry going to do about this?
Clearly, the government is taking steps to relook at the whole, contract concessions across the country, so that we can re-concession the country, get more waste service providers on board, so that one person or two people or three people do not take absolute control of the whole sector and are unable to meet the expectations of government.
Okay.
In terms of delivering a cleaner and nicer city that we all expect. So the ministry is taking steps to do this.
Okay.
And like I said, if you are going to do that, you have to do due diligence to ensure that you don't do it tomorrow, it comes back to government in a different level. So that is the work the minister is doing now.
Okay.
And I can assure you that that would be done within the soonest.
Now, looking at the president's vision, making Ghana the cleanest in Africa, it looks like, I mean, sanitation issues, we don't have that patience. We need to run faster because that's what the picture the president paints. Doesn't it look like, or many are feeling that the ministry is only playing blame games because it is failing on its duties?
No.
Because some of these contracts are supposed to be supervised by the people who gave the contracts out.
If you listen to the minister, my boss, he stated clearly that in the initial arrangement, the people who are supposed to do the daily activities of cleaning the streets were supposed to be employees of the MMAs, not employees of the service provider. So that the MMAs can say that at any time, we want these employees to be deployed to a specific area to do A or B exercise for us.
Okay.
But when you absorb the employees of the MMAs and now they are under the control of a service provider and who would either deploy them the way he wants or would deploy them to areas that are not of priority to assemble, then that's a problem.
Okay, but do you carry monitoring and evaluation, the ministry?
Of course the ministry does.
How come you haven't?
Through the MMAs. The ministry does monitoring and evaluation through the MMAs. The ministry as a setup also give them the capacity, support to be able to do that. So that is done. It's not like the ministry is not doing anything about it.
So why haven't we realized this all this while?
My sister, when you take over the realms of government,
Okay.
it will not take you just a day. And it is out of our monitoring, it's out of our supervision that these things are coming out.
It's been a year already.
And that's what I'm saying, that it's out of our supervision that these things are coming out. If we were sleeping in the ministry, I'm not sure we would discover these challenges.
It's a year,
and
not
call
too
for
long a
their
time.
review.
It's a year, not too long a time. Why are you now coming out to say, to blame Zoomlion? You should have fired them, I mean, long time ago.
No, that's what I'm saying, that government processes are not done like we want it to be done tomorrow to tomorrow next. You have to take time so that when you finish doing what you are doing, the government would have followed the due process of executing that assignment. And as a minister, you hold it due to ensure that the process are done right. And that is why recently the year came out to state clearly that they were going to do renewal of contract and they are going to open it up for more service providers.
Okay.
The contracts were running, so you cannot abrogate them like that. You have to give time, you have to give space, you have to even review to be sure of the key indicators, the performance indicators, and what you expect, whether the service provider has met it or not. And that is what has brought us this far. So with the minister now making the point that, look, if we are to blame anybody now, we can't blame anyone than the service provider who has taken contract and has not been able to deliver the work as required by government.
Okay.
And so we are going to review that so that we can get more other people to get involved, we can get new technology, you can get new expertise so that we get the job done. I can assure you that the minister is not taking too long to do this. It is the matter of following due process.
Okay.
A lot of things are being done. You remember, I don't know whether you reported it, but sites like Malam, Gilfe, Adedempo and Co were a playing ground for, birds, playground for very different kind of mammals.
Okay.
The minister has made sure that those sites have been covered. So if you go to Malam now, you don't have what it used to be.
Okay, so
if you
Malam is just Malam. There are a lot of farms and a lot of places.
If you go to Adedempo,
okay,
it is not as it used to be.
Okay.
If you go to Gilfe, it is not as it used to be.
But I think it's still not reflecting. Let's take a break on PM Express. When we come back, we'll find out what will happen to this service provider, as the minister himself points out that it is not living up to expectation. And also hear from Zoomlion's boss. He says they are not to be blamed and that there are challenges. We'll hear from him too. Welcome back to PM Express. We're still discussing sanitation, and we're asking ourselves: is it attitudinal change? Is it government? Is it that government is not putting, the right measures in place? What really is our problem? Why can't we have a clean Ghana? And joining the discussion now is Mr. Ben Arthur. He's former executive secretary of Coalition of NGOs on Water and Sanitation, CONIWAS. And he's also a sanitation consultant for Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, the WASH project. And you're welcome, Mr. Atta. Let me come to you straight away. I mean, for some time now, there's been renewed campaign to tackle the filth in Ghana. We've tackled major cities like Accra, Kumasi, and other major cities in the country. The president says that we must achieve a cleanest Ghana at all costs. But the problem seems to persist. Where are we going wrong? Why are we still here?
Thank you. And yes, we will still be here because most of the things that we are doing, we are paying lip service. That is the first one. Let me give, because of the will, the political will, the commitment.
Is it not
to
there?
Push. Let me give you an example. Where in this country, a former president gave an order, streets should be named by a certain date. We got it. I mean, within the project time, we had about 75% of our street named.
And it worked out.
I mean, so who said we cannot do it?
Okay, so why are we still here?
The point is that, one, if you look at the challenges we have in the sector, we have all the policies. This is one sector. One of our seniors have actually counted and was saying policy, strategy, action plans about 100 since 2002 to current year. Right. So we have all it takes in terms of policies. Okay. The human resource, the environmental hygiene specialists, we don't have many, but we have them there. Okay. The issue of finance, that is also crucial. Yes, we don't have enough. Okay. But have we utilized the little that we have adequately? We have a situation where releases don't come on time. So the department, the agencies, whatever they plan, they cannot go forward and implement because the fund, in the first place, is not enough. Okay. Two, it's not released on time. So whatever your plans are, how beautiful, feasible they are, you cannot move forward with your plans. These are the issues. Then we have issues, governance and institutional arrangement. The laws governing sanitation sector is too many, and we don't know which one to follow. You have the Public Health Law, Public Health Act, which places the staff of the environmental health under the health ministry. Yet the local governance act places these people under the service at the district level. Who are they reporting to? Now we've moved sanitation from local government, which is good. That's what we've been praying for, and we have it. But the local government still owns the district assemblies. So the institutional structure to facilitate the delivery of the sanitation at the district level is not there. An issue of enforcement. We have all it takes to enforce the laws. We have all the punitive measures in our criminal code and the Public Health Act, in the district assembly's own bylaws. Well spelled out. We are not enforcing them. In fact, if we can enforce 50% of our laws, we'll be dealing with about 60% of our sanitation problems. Because the challenge is more of human than policies and strategies. So if we can enforce the laws, we will be solving most of our problems.
Raymond, you heard Mr. Arthur right, and of course he hits right on the nail. He says that we have too many of the laws scattered, we don't know which one to use. But it comes back to the conversation that we don't have a proper sanitation plan. Do we have one?
Yes. Let me thank him so much for his contribution. And let me say that there are good number of plans that were developed in the past. And in recent times, the ministry, through the support of the World Bank, is actually integrating all those plans together into a master plan that would serve as one document reference for sanitation and water delivery in this country. So we are bringing all those things, the different laws, the different actions, the different policies, the different plans into one document that will state clearly the government policy on liquid waste, solid waste, medical waste, constructional waste, and all the various aspects of the waste sector into one comprehensive master plan that can be used as a reference. Now, in terms of the political commitment, I think we must commend this president,
Why?
His Excellency President Nana, for his political commitment.
Okay.
Why do I say this? He has actually set up a ministry to deal with the situation of sanitation.
And what has the ministry done so far?
And that is enough political will for any president to look at a sector, think through it, and give a substantive minister supported by 2 deputies, and set up the ministry to be in charge of this menace.
Okay.
And so that is something that we must commend the president for.
Okay, so it comes
Committed
back to
resources
to the institutional structure.
Exactly.
We have all these people lined up for just a simple job, and the job hasn't been done.
No, it's not as you are putting it. The job, as he said, there are challenges in the sector, and some of these challenges coming out of the issues that my brother just enumerated. And some of them are being addressed as we speak now.
Okay.
In terms of the sanitation officers being under the local government, they have actually been moved to the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources. So now all the environmental health service personnel at the local level are staff of the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources. Okay. So that is one of the hurdles that we are crossing. In terms of they residing at the assembly, that would happen because of decentralization. Okay. If you look at education, of course, GES at the local level is in the assembly, but they operate under Ghana Education Service through the Ministry of Education. Okay. If you take, for instance, Ministry of Agric, their officers sit at the district assembly, but they report to the Ministry of Agric. And health sector, if you take the health, the health directorates are in the assembly, but they report directly to the Ministry of Health. And now we have same situation for sanitation, where the environmental health officers report to the ministry. So these are some of the things that we are doing. Enforcement is key. Like he says, if we are able to solve the issue of enforcement, we would have solved at least about 60% of our challenges. The ministry, during the launch of the National Sanitation Campaign, we outdoor the National Sanitation Brigade. Okay. The National Sanitation Brigade is to bring back the Saman approach into dealing with sanitation issues.
Are they in full force? It's been some months now since
yes,
the project was launched.
Few have been recruited, but through the various assemblies within the Greater Accra region. Okay. And so I'm sure of they have their brigade. The ministry has provided some uniforms and simple logistics for them to start. Coming this year, before the last quarter of the year, we will have rolled out a nationwide approach to the brigade, where every MMNDA will have about 100 of these people going around from community to community, house to house, marketplace to marketplace, spot to spot, checking and ensuring that people comply with our laws. One of the key achievements of the ministry, and for that matter this minister, is that the laws as we have, some of them were not gazetted. Just last week we held a forum to start the processes of gazetting these laws. Some of the laws being used by the district. We've done that for the Southern Zone, the Accra, Cape Coast, Takoradi. Last 2 weeks we were in Kumasi. So these are the key issues in the sector we've come to identify, and we are not just resting. We are working on them day after day to ensure that we deliver the president's mandate, the president's vision of making this country one of the cleanest countries in Africa.
One of the cleanest countries in Africa. Ms. Hassan, looking at the situation in which we are, the state in which we are now, is it safe? We've heard the Minister for Sanitation blaming Zoomlion. He's putting the blame squarely at the doorstep of Zoomlion. At this stage, should we be playing blame game? Is it safe for us?
I must say, if that is the situation, then it's sad. Because we are looking at a situation where you combine the efforts of everyone so that the synergy that comes out of this complementary role, you pull them to address the situation. So if he's blaming Zoomlion for the challenge we are facing, I think is quite unfortunate. What would have been the alternative? Let's look at it from that point. If Zoomlion has not been there, what would have happened?
Probably they would have contracted another service provider. Yes.
The issue with the Zoomlion case for me is that we sign, Zoomlion has contract with, I think, YE. That's where the contract.
Right.
We sign contract at the national level.
Okay.
For implementation to take place at district level. Okay. District Assembly don't even see copies of this contract. So who monitor Zoomlion? So they will deliver their service as they want to deliver.
Okay.
At the end of the day, they don't get their pay from district assemblies.
Right.
They refer to the Ministry of Finance and local government to take their money. So why would you want to sign a contract at the national level for implementation to take place at the district level where the district have not seen the contract? What are the indicators? What are the benchmarks? Who follows what? At what point should Zoomlion deliver what? These are the issues. So if nobody is monitoring Zoomlion or any other service provider, then you are in for these problems. Secondly, has the government paid what it owes to Zoomlion? They owe Zoomlion some money. They've delivered some service. Yes, if it's not adequate, it's not enough, it doesn't meet the standard. You are the paymaster. What have you done about it?
The last time we checked, Zoomlion was actually taking more than it has done.
In terms of?
It has taken monies more than it has
If I asked that this morning at the meeting, Zoomlion said it, that the government owed them some of the project 2 years, some of the thing 1 year. They said it at the meeting and the government hasn't paid.
Okay.
And if it's the service provider you are not paying, how do we expect Zoomlion to deliver on its remit? But he made a case of the sector plans and pulling it together, fine. But I think each in our sector, each district has what we call DESAP, District Environmental Sanitation and Action Plans. Each district, each metropolitan assembly, each municipal assembly has this. And they have, at the national level, we have the SESIP, the Sector Strategic Investment Plan. So if we're saying we don't have plans there, the district don't have plans, I don't think, I'll beg to differ. Every district has this instrument to enable them to implement their sanitation action plans. And part of these are always in their medium-term development plans.
Okay.
And it's all resources and commitment to put plans on the ground. That is what we don't have. Every district you go to, they will show you copies of their plans, take their medium-term development plan, it is articulated there because it's part of the indicators the NDPC give to the district assemblies. So to say the district don't have plans, we should have a national, fine, good to have a national plan, but we also have, I mean, if we say we don't have, I will beg to differ, we have something there. If it's not enough, say we are putting it into a better shape, but we have, because the sector has been working.
Okay.
The sector has been working.
So how do you respond to the fact that you owe Zoomlion and you come back to blame them for not working? You know that if you don't chop, you can't work. You need to eat
well,
and fill your tummy before
yes.
you can do some work well.
Well, thank you very much. I think I agree with you. Yes, any man who works must get his pay.
Yeah.
And it is not as if government is not committed to pay any legitimate contractor who has provided government with service. If you care to know, we have requested for the financial obligations of government to these service providers, not only Zoomlion anyway.
For the whole 1 year you've been empowered?
No, for the past, the debts we are talking about is not the debt that
you accumulated.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm saying that
of previous government.
Are you now just requesting for that
we have done that.
Obligation?
We have requested. The various service providers have submitted. The ministry is reviewing. We've called them. We've actually met all of them to go through some of the financials they submitted, and the ministry is doing its own audit to be sure that any money that is paid to any contractor is money that the contractor legitimately deserves. So that is being done. Recently, in the State of the Nation address, the president committed some funds to the ministry to take some of it as a way to pay the contractors part of their owe, and then use some of it to also deal with the challenges that we are faced in the sector. So these things are being done. But of course, you cannot just come and meet a debt, write the next check, and then pay. You remember the audit service also have to do a special audit. And so all these were part of the government comprehensive audit system to make sure that all the past debts that were handed over to this government have been properly reviewed, they are due, and people have the legitimate right to deserve such payment. So it is not deliberate that the ministry is keeping the service providers' money and then questioning whether he is the blamed person or not. But it is a process.
Okay, but Mr. Arthur also
but let me just make
a critical point.
Yes, just a point. In fact, the contracts were not signed just with YEA alone. The YEA aspect of it is the sweepers. Those you see when the yellow, the blue, and other colors.
Right.
That is just that aspect of it. Okay. The other aspect of the collection of the waste, transporting it, disposal is also part of the other aspect of it. Street cleansing, what they call dredging of gutters, and other components enters into the whole contract sum. So those other aspects have not been signed with only YEA, but the assemblies actually signed some of them. The point he made that I'm so happy is that some of those contracts were signed in Accra without even a copy to the assemblies involved.
Okay.
And so you don't even actually have an indicator
so
to monitor.
That's a wrong. That's a
exactly.
wrong.
And those are the things those are the things that we are correcting.
Okay, it's taking you more than a year. Should it take you more than a year to correct this?
I'm saying that coming events catch their own shadows.
Okay.
This processes we are going through is to give us the good overview of the whole situation to be able to take the necessary actions.
Okay,
if you rush into
it, for such a thing, all you need to do is to invite the district chief executives and invite all of them at a meeting and discuss that. This shouldn't take more than a week to do.
We actually, that's what I'm saying. Some of the contracts we requested for, some of the assemblies cannot produce any contract.
But of course, you've rightly said that they don't even have copies. How would they produce it? You should be asking the Ministry for Local Government for all
so that is what I'm saying, that
contracts.
Where we are now is due to the actions that we've taken in the past. That's where we are at this point. We are discussing.
Okay.
We have taken steps to look through all these contracts. We've actually gotten the contracts now, and we are going through them.
Okay.
Assembly by assembly. And like the YEA
So when
said,
should we expect the Ministry of Sanitation to actually decentralize this kind of contract so that the district levels, the district chief executives or the district assemblies would have copies and know how to monitor some of these services being provided?
The contracts are coming to an end in June July.
So
a new contract will be issued.
Are we going to be seeing this lackadaisical attitude till June so you renew their contract?
No.
I mean, in the interim, what are you doing?
In the interim, the ministry
to expire.
In the interim, the ministry has strengthened its enforcement unit. The ministry has also instructed all the MMDAs to go daily to monitor the activities of the service provider. The ministry is not resting, but we are taking steps in the process to get to the final destination where we can see a drastic change in how these contracts are being managed. But in the interim, the ministry has actually tasked all district chief executives to beef up their enforcement, to beef up their monitoring of the service provider, and to also report any kind of lackadaisical attitude from the service provider. Some of the payments that were made have actually been stopped. Those that were paid from the common fund straight to the service providers' accounts, those government has taken a policy and those things have been stopped. So whole of this year, no money has been transferred from the common fund to the service provider. Okay,
so it means that once you are at work and you are not resting, you keep on saying that, it makes you have some timelines. And one thing I know for sure that we are running out of patience. We don't have any patience anymore to listen to a lot of talks. We'll take a break on PM Express. When we come back, we'll look at the timelines. How many years do we have to see Ghana clean? 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, or 20 years? We'll be right back. Welcome back to PM Express. We're having some interesting discourse and it's about sanitation. And you know what sanitation, poor sanitation does to us. We've lost lives through cholera. Malaria is there out there killing so many people because of mosquitoes biting people and all of that. And so we're making some interesting strides in the studio right here. Now, Mr. Arthur, are we not blaming government too much, forgetting that we the people must play a part? And I'm moved by a statement that was made some time ago recently by the head pastor of ICGC, Mensa Otabel. He says Accra is not filthy, but the people are. And I tend to agree with him. I mean, and he explained that the earth doesn't generate plastic waste, the earth doesn't generate wrappers, it doesn't generate filth. It's the people that live on the earth that generate that filth.
Yeah, I will agree with him on the statement. And also to indicate that the chapter 6 of our constitution, the principles, directive principles of state, actually mandates the individual to protect and keep the environment. So it starts with the individual. But you see, if you are a leader in a house and there is a problem, we come to you first before we go to actually cause the problem. And that is why we find ourselves. It is the individuals, I agree, and I think the individual, whoever flouts the law, must be dealt with. But we also have to put in place structures to facilitate the individual's ability to access the service. For instance, somebody buys banana. It is at the bus stop. Is there a bin there so that the person can put?
Is one of the interesting points that
can put inside.
The CEO of Jospon Group of Companies
can put
made.
It inside. If there is no a bin, the person has two options: either to put it in his pocket or have pocket, or dump it on the ground. Yes. So insofar as we want to blame the individual for not doing his or her part, there are certain structures which also have to put in place to facilitate the individual doing his or her part. People sweep from their houses. Why do you think they sweep? They don't like the dirt.
Yeah.
They don't want to be affected negatively by the dirt. Okay. That is why we will sweep. But the next thing is to dump it in a gutter, because we don't have receptacles to put them, containers to put them in. Some of them will burn it. Some of them will dig and put them in, but others, most of them will put it in the gutter in front. And for such people, you see, the individuals, if you leave us, we will do whatever we want to do.
But it shouldn't be so.
That is why we have the laws. I mean, if you go to, we refer to other countries. That is why we put in the laws. Because if you go to US and there is no law, we will behave as we are here.
So
but
if
there are laws.
the banana peel that you take off, if you cannot put it on your bed where you lie, why do you think it's safe dropping it on the ground?
That is the individual. Because you think that is not where he's sleeping. You are talking of the bed and outside. It's also the way we brought out and how our views about our environment and we go
so
to
how do we get off this situation?
I think first I said our constitution gives us individually we have a responsibility to do this, but we also have to enable the individual to access the service which will support him or her to do whatever the constitution has asked him or her to do. Secondly, we have put in place law because we see, we have the vision that some of the individuals are deviant.
Yeah.
And such people, they need the laws
Must
to
be
bring
brought to
them
book.
online. So it means the laws that we have to enforce the laws. And we have all the laws. The Public Act alone, 2012, is enough to sanction most of us the way we do our things and obey. And we talk of money and all those things. If we are enforcing the laws, we can raise income from the law enforcement to stop everything. Because whoever, even if somebody prevents the public officer, the environmental health officer, from doing his or her duty, the person has broken the law.
The person has broken the law.
And the person has to pay.
We're running out of time. Briefly, the ministry has to help the citizenry, to help the ministry to achieve the president's vision. What are you doing? One of the things you mentioned is the dustbins. If people don't get dustbins,
we don't even take it.
We don't take it. And we even have issues with where we dump our waste. Apart, when the dustbin is full and you pick it, where do you dump the waste? We've had problems with that also. What is the ministry doing in the interim whilst you wait to renew contracts of service providers?
Thank you very much. And I think that the ministry has also identified human attitudinal behavior as one of the key issues that we need to address. And that was the reason why the launch of the National Sanitation Campaign. This is a nationwide campaign that is to educate all of us as citizens and to also encourage and invite us to take part in the waste managing and in taking care of our environment. So that is ongoing. In terms of the final disposal side, the ministry, as we speak now, is in the process of constructing 2 waste landfill sites in each region. And one of the other things that we intend to do is to construct what we call material recovery site. This is not actually waste. Waste is now a resource. Waste is actually money. And so basically those are the activities we are taking to ensure that the end disposable sites are available for all of us. But the key issue is that we must all play our part in keeping our country
we must all
clean.
play our parts because it's a collective responsibility. And that's how we wrap up the show tonight. Many thanks, gentlemen, for coming. Raymond Ailu is aide for the Minister of Sanitation. He works with the Ministry of Sanitation. And Ben Atta is sanitation consultant with the Water Sanitation and Hygiene Project. And to you at home, many thanks for watching. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Remember, keeping the country clean is a collective responsibility. Enjoy your weekend.